So if I could have the other slide deck up, I think. I just want to orient everyone a bit as to what the next 2 days are going to be like. As Gigi just said, there's 4 main modules, but I'd love to show you a bit more about what those agendas look like, because you'll see in each one of our sections, you could have entire 2-day conferences on each one of our panel groups. And so some of you will be saying, well, why might that be? And how are we going to get things done with such a wide range of things? But it's exactly that diversity which we have striven for here, that we wish to inspire you, but we also wish to inspire you to act. As you heard about our desire, if I'd hit the forward instead of the laser pointer, it would work much better. So everyone brought their glasses today, right? So you can read all this. So this is awesome. So you've heard that the first section is innovating how we innovate. And so Gigi's going to lead us through a panel that sets some of the big picture challenges around that ecosystem. Then we have a special teaser announcement that I can't give you any more info about, so you're going to have to sit on pins and needles for another hour or so before we get to that. And then at 10:15, we're going to hear about the roadmap to the future from Janet Woodcock, about how we take this more practically forward. What does it mean? She's already been a great leader in this. She has some exciting ideas to share with us today. Followed by then a fireside chat around the iSpy story, and then over lunch, we're going to hear what can we learn and steal from non-healthcare places from Mike Cusimano, one of the great professors over at the Sloan School. So it won't just be about healthcare. We're going to say, what can we also learn from other places? He specializes in how does one build platforms, and you heard Gigi talk about learning engines. So maybe there are some things we can learn from the tech industries and others about how you really implement that for real, as opposed to simply talk about it, as we often do in healthcare. In the afternoon, today we'll talk about catalyzing next generation platform trials, which are perhaps the foundation and the easy entry point for an ecosystem going forward. Often that's around oncology that we think of these, and that's where we'll start the discussion, but we'll also have discussions about what's going on in so many exciting ways beyond oncology. There are many new platform trials being initiated beyond that. But it's not just from the trialist standpoint or the researcher standpoint. We need to see how these platforms meet the evidence needs and the participation needs of everyone, particularly patients, but also payers, and not just focus on delivering data that regulators can use for decision making. It has to be broader on these platform trials than just a scientific question for scientific knowledge or for regulatory approval. It has to generate actionable knowledge for clinical practice, which is something we often don't yet achieve in these clinical trial platforms. We're going to talk about, can we get there? And then Anna Barker is going to bring us home at the end of this session today, because she is in one of the most innovative places in the world out in Arizona. So with great humility, we'll admit there's something that happens outside of Cambridge, Massachusetts. It was hard for us to admit this, but Anna Barker is going to come and bring us home about how does innovation happen in the rest of the world beyond Cambridge, Massachusetts. And we hope to learn a great deal from that, although we'll of course say we did it here first, but Anna will correct us on all of that. On the second day, tomorrow, we're going to continue this movement towards not just the preclinical or pre-approval side of evidence generation, which has to be done in context of knowing about what payers need, but how do we use post-approval data both to help regulators in science on that research side, but also help to optimize the regimens in clinical practice. How do we use real-world evidence across a variety of needs and do that efficiently and well? And can we actually see progress beyond individual single sterling examples and take it into a systematic way that we do this, as opposed to a bunch of one-offs? And that's what the morning will focus on, with both some evidence planning issues and then driving values for patients in the afternoon. We should start with patients in some way, but what we find in many conferences is there's some platitudes about patients at the beginning, and then we forget about them through the whole rest of the conference. Today, on these next 2 days, we're going to switch that order. Everything's going to be leading up to how does this help patients at the end of the day. And that's why we put it last instead of first, so we don't forget about it, and everybody has to remember they have to foreshadow how it's going to help with the patients. And then we have, of course, how can technology enable that, where Sandy Pentland, another incredible person from the MIT Media Lab, is again going to inspire us with what other people are doing and shame us a little bit about why we're so far behind on all of these things. In the afternoon, then tomorrow, we're bringing this home we're inspired, we see the potential, we have a lot of great ideas, we've talked about them together, we've talked about them over breaks and lunches and maybe drinks tonight for those of you who can stay and other things. And then we'll say, but these are systems challenges, they're not just science and technical challenges, right? So I come from the MIT Sloan School of Management. I believe that management innovation is just as important as scientific innovation for all this. I know that puts me at odds with many of you in the room, but I'm going to hang tough on that one. And so the afternoon will be spent on tomorrow of how do we have to innovate on the management side, on the stakeholder engagement side, on how do you set up systems that are beyond just power negotiations between players into true collaborative, everybody wins ecosystems to make this happen. And we'll show some examples, we'll talk about some tools, and then we'll move towards the end of the day with Gigi bringing us to a close about, now that we've been inspired and we've seen what needs to be done, how do we together act together and not just walk out feeling inspired and that we had a beautiful time at the Oasis, but now we have to go back to crossing the desert on our camel, okay? But how do we take that Oasis with us and water the desert and make it bloom? And that's what we're going to be trying to achieve at the end of 2 days. So this is not a conference where we just get together, talk, learn, but we're trying to catalyze action and collaboration amongst all of you to start with, and then with everyone you interact with beyond that. And we'll try to have some very specific ways that we can all participate in that going forward. It's going to be an incredibly exciting 2 days. Hope you keep this sort of flow in mind as to where we're going, because every one of these individual presentations I'm sure will get exciting and go down into the weeds, but please try to keep this overarching theme and flow together, and I'll try to bring us back up to that once in a while. So with that, we are actually 5 minutes early. You gathered much more quickly. You're a wonderfully compliant crowd in the morning of caffeine, so this is fantastic that we're early. We're looking forward to your questions soon, and I'd invite the first panel up for today.